the best thing to do is to kick off with just asking you to provide us a little bit of background on you, your business, your life, how you came to be at this moment where you decided to write a book.
So that's a convoluted story, my friend. Like I'm sure most are.
You
Uh,
you contain multitudes. You've got a lot going on.
I guess the most pertinent part of me. So I'm a cosmetic dentist. Been doing this for almost 17 years now, and dentistry it's an interesting world. I started my undergrad career in mechanical engineering, actually, and so going into cosmetic dentistry seems like an odd shift, but it actually is pretty relevant. We do CAD design, and there's a lot of engineering in what I do, so it kind of worked out. But what brought me into dentistry is this group called Operation Smile, and they go around the world and fix smiles, right? Cleft palates, cleft lips, etc. And I was super impacted by the work they did, and more than that, the impact they had on other people's lives, right? And so for me, that brought a lot of meaning and value to what I could do for people, and so made a pivot from there and started the path towards dental school. And I think I was lucky that I love it, and I'm pretty good at it, and so that worked out.
How did you find Operation Smile in the first place, or how did they find you?
Yeah, I was down in Colombia doing a service mission for my church, and they were down, just happened to be there doing what they do, and that was my first exposure to them. So it's pretty neat.
Wow, that was your inspiration to go to dental school?
Yeah, yeah, and I still I do a lot of humanitarian work still. And last year was in Honduras. I actually was able to bring my 15-year-old with me, which was super fun, and helping people. We were way, way, way out in the middle of nowhere. People that hadn't seen a dentist in decades, so that was still able to give back a little bit. So that's what got me down the path. And then as my careers evolved, what's been interesting with cosmetic dentistry, it's just not normal dentistry, right? It's not what people think of when they think of a dentist. I don't do fillings. I'm not doing like crap. Like I just don't do the regular stuff. And it's taken me a long time because it's the reason not every dentist does this is it's really hard. It's really hard stuff. And it takes a lot of training and thousands of hours of continuing education beyond dental school. It's the barrier, I'll call it the barrier of entry into being really a high-end cosmetic dentist. It's really high. It's a hard kind of part of dentistry to really break into and be successful with. And so as I was going on and helping people and people having other experiences that maybe weren't as great, I was constantly getting feedback from patients. Hey, you should write a book about this. Like, you should tell people about what you do and how you do it. And, for me, I teach at USC, the dental school I went to, some faculty there. I do lecturing. Like, I really like educating people. And so that kind of became a goal of mine early on in my career. I'm like, yeah, that would be awesome. At some point I should do that. And then life happens, right? And, I have 4 kids and coaching Little League and, all this stuff. And so like writing a book becomes very low on the totem pole of needs. And then what ended up happening, it was about 5 years ago. We were on vacation for spring break, and we were at a place where you could ski during spring break still. We were trying to get a little bit more skiing in, but there was no snow. And so and it wasn't warm enough to do anything else. And so we were just kind of hanging out without much to do. And the 4 kids running crazy and all this stuff. And at that point I sat down and I said, I'm going to write my outline. I'm going to do it. And so I literally wrote my outline during that week and started the process. And then I think the hardest thing for people that are wanting to do this is like, how do I even start? Right? How do I even go from, my from the blocks to the next step? And that's where I found Scribe, and that was super valuable for me. So I was introduced to Scribe from another colleague he's a consultant in dentistry, but he's written books, and he actually started this company called 1-800-Dentist, which back in the day, like a lot of people knew about. His name is Fred Joyle, and he introduced me. He found Scribe actually, and he was kind of researching for me. He's like, hey, I think this is a good fit. And that was where it all began.
That's awesome. Way to make the best of a no snow situation.
Got to have something to do. I'm like Mr. ADD, so I need to I have something to go on.
I think there's so many people with that who have like written that rough draft outline and then just like left it on their computer, for 5 years because there's no real clear next step. So when did this become like real for you? When did it go from like, I should write a book someday and I'm a guy with an outline in a drawer to like, oh, this is a project. This is like has bumped up my priority list. Now is the time. And here we go.
I would say when I had my first call with the writer I was working with, that was, for me, that was kind of an aha moment, like, holy crap, this is real. Like, this is happening, And so it was weekly meetings, for a long time, going through all the content, and me spending time just putting it all together, researching what I wanted, putting, the photography together. That's when it really sunk in for me, like, I'm actually doing this. And then I'll tell you the craziest, and I'll never forget this day, the day that I had the manuscript show up in my inbox, right? It's like all of that we've been working on for the last like 8 months, all of a sudden, we had it compiled and I had a manuscript. I'm like, what the heck? I'm just a simple dentist. Like, I had a manuscript, right? And that was really powerful for me. That was cool.
Yeah, I always like to ask people what the highest kind of moments are, the most memorable, like emotional peaks. And yeah, a lot of times it's a manuscript or the cover, or sometimes the first physical, like holding the first physical copies.
Oh, that was, yeah. I mean, you can't even describe that. Like, I have it right here. It's like I had this book. I did this, right? This is in my hands. It's a physical thing. And I remember, with my story, I left out a little bit with my mom. My mom was actually an influence for me to go into dentistry as well. She was a nurse. I was looking at different medical professions of like how to impact people. And she's the one that said, you should be a dentist. She's like, that best fits you. And so, she wasn't wrong. And so anyways, when I got the book and I gave a copy to my mom, like, she was emotional, right? I mean, that was really neat. That was a cool experience.
It's very cool, like, yeah, full circle moment. And sometimes it's, the smallest, most meaningful audiences that like provide that kind of catharsis. This is also going back in your story a little bit, but tell us a little bit about like cosmetic dentistry. I think the descriptor cosmetic makes people feel like it's like plastic surgery adjacent instead of, which my understanding is that a lot of times it's like the single most important thing in a person's life that they're most self-conscious about, that's really holding them back in a lot of ways from, living a full, confident life. And I think there's a reason why you called your book Creating a Confident Smile. But can you give us a little bit more of a sense of like who your customers, your patients are, for lack of a better?
Yeah. And that's a great question. There's a couple parts to that. And I tell people, I said, look, form follows function, right? Your mouth has to function. It has to work properly. And a lot of the patients I see, their function it's broken down, right? Their mouth is not working the way it's supposed to. And as humans, we adapt to it, but there are really significant health impacts to that. So that's kind of the first part of just understanding that. And then the other thing is, for guys like me, and I actually have veneers, but when you have nice teeth, you don't realize what it's like to not have nice teeth, right? And so you kind of look back into our culture and society. And if you think about, like, look at Hollywood, for example, if they ever want to make someone look like a villain or look stupid, they don't have nice teeth, right? They don't have a nice smile, right? And so in our society, bad teeth is associated with being uneducated, being, low income, whatever, being a bad person, right? I mean, that's just how our society views things.
Being British,
or British. I love my British patients; they're the best. But it's just interesting that that's the stigma that a bad smile has, and if you don't experience that, you don't understand what that feels like. And so patients come in, and a lot of times they're embarrassed. They're embarrassed to even talk about it. And the other really interesting thing, and how I think this is unique, is the majority of patients, they come in, they're like, I want this to look natural, right? I don't want it to look fake, which is, I hear that almost every consult I do, which I love that. I mean, I'm all about that. And a lot of people will say, I don't want people to know I did this. And that always blows me away. I'm like, why not? And so that's the initial consultation we have. And then they come back after we finish the work, and we're getting like final photos and all that stuff. And then they'll say, this changed my life. Like, people they won't say to me, oh, you have great veneers, but they'll say, something's different about you. I noticed you're carrying yourself a little differently. Like, you have more confidence, right? And so that's where the title of the book came from. Is that was what I saw happen with people. That was the change I saw, was their level of confidence, how they felt about themselves, and you just can't put a price tag on that. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah, if you can sort of release the biggest burden that someone is carrying, the biggest psychological or like confidence burden that they're carrying. So is that was that the idea for the book that you sort of came in with? Was that who you were speaking to, is like potential patients?
Yeah, it's like, hey, look, you don't have to go through life that way. Like, there are options. I mean, just because your teeth aren't great for whatever, and there's a lot of reasons for the teeth not to be great, right? Just because they are doesn't mean they have to stay that way. And I just wanted to get the word out there to humanity, to society. Is like, hey, there are ways of creating this confident smile that are super impactful and really life altering.
Did the idea for the book or the content, like thinking about that initial outline that you created and then comparing it to the final product, a year or so later, what sort of transformations did that idea go through? How did it get sort of fleshed out and completed?
So interestingly, not much. Like, I was and this is, I think, rare. I was pretty locked in on, I mean, I honestly, like, this sounds super cheesy, Eric, and like whatever, but I almost, like, I felt there was a little inspiration going on when I was writing my outline. Like, I literally like felt it coming. It's like,
Thunderbolt, the
this
muse
is
was
it.
with you. I love it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, this is what, how you want to be, what people to know. And it's, I use it as kind of, there's a bit of a storytelling to it, right? And it walks through a journey, and it goes through the process of, start to finish, of what the options look like. And the little bit of the teacher came out in me. And so really, that target audience are people that are either looking into this or don't even know it's an option. And the other little, I think the thing that I added that wasn't necessarily in the outline is I did throw in enough kind of technical detail that even for dentists that aren't doing this, right, or wanting to try to help their patient base, I put enough technical detail about my process, because it is different. Like, the way I do things is different, for them to glean information from that, and potentially integrate that into what they do and how they help their patients.
I love it. I think, we can call it the muse if you want, but I think you are an incredible example of an author who was so primed with expertise and experience from, the thousands of conversations and consults and the decades of work that you've done. You've had this conversation with thousands of patients. You've said this book out loud dozens of times over the last 10 years, and you're teaching. So between both of those, I think people sometimes really underestimate how primed they are as experts in their field to just, like, when it snaps together, it snaps together, and you almost intuitively can produce an outline or a book. You just need the right sort of translating layer of experts to, like, fit it into the format. But I love to hear, stories like yours where it's like, no, I was surprised at how little it changed, which just doesn't give enough credit to the work that you've done to become the person who had that book in you in the first place.
Well, it's cool as I've talked to other people about it, and I'm in mastermind groups where people are like, "Wow, that's so cool. Tell me more about it." And the reality is, we all got a story to tell, right? We've all kind of done things in our life that matter, and I think taking the time to reflect on that is a valuable exercise. And then it's like, hey, maybe I do want to memorialize this in something physical, right? Something that will outlive me. And I think that everybody has a story in them, right? Everybody has that opportunity, whether it be, you get it down into an actual book, or you're just putting it in a Word document, right? Whatever that looks like. I think that's something that people should take time to do it, and kind of to carry on that. It's like, that's not egotistical, right? It's not like, well, I'm so important that, I have a story to tell, or whatever. Everybody has a story to tell, right? everybody's story matters, and it's just how you want to share that. And I mean, I look at my grandfather did that. Like, he just put it in a Word document, right? And it's actually he made a book. It's like kind of his story, right? And
That's so cool.
now us, like his grandkids and my great great, that has a ton of value for us. I mean, it's such a neat thing to do, and everyone has a story.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who like I always say, like, humility, an overdose of humility can kill a good book. There's people that are just so unwilling to believe that they have something to contribute. And I always tell them, like, there's no object I wish existed more than a book written by my father. Even if only a few lives are impacted, but they're impacted massively, like, that is an incredible legacy. A lot of people work really, really hard to leave a financial legacy, but don't do any work to leave an intellectual legacy or an emotional legacy by sharing what they learned. And I think, the more of an expert you are and the more work you've done to gain that experience, the more important it is that you do just like a little bit of work to preserve that and pass it on. Like, that is how knowledge compounds generation to generation. So I'm really glad you went through this process, and you sort of started it there. But I wanted to ask, what sort of advice do you have for people that are maybe where you were a few years ago, which is like a vague notion that maybe there is a book in them someday, but they just haven't had that moment of, a snowless ski vacation, or whatever the muse
A
hasn't
moment in
visited
time where
them
they're
yet.
trapped and have to do something.
Yeah.
Like, for me, the starting point was just do an outline. Like, how easy is that? I mean, heck, so Chat GPT wasn't around when I started, but now it's like I could say, give me an outline and here's the points I want to hit, right? And it would spit out an outline for me, right? I mean, it's just getting an outline done, I don't think is very challenging. And that's the starting point, right? From there, you develop, right? You develop, each layer of that. And again, what's great about Scribe is I think you guys have a really talented team to help you do that. So you're not on your own. You don't have to do it alone. You have a teammate in the process that's very experienced with it. And I can't overstate how helpful that was for me, right? And anytime I'd get stuck on something, or I just get in my own way or own head, the fact that that person was not an expert in dentistry, right? They're a layman and they're kind of learning along the way. They're like, well, it resonates to me this way. Like, how go on this point. I'm like, okay, cool. Got it. And so, that stuff is super helpful. That makes it easy. I mean, honestly, like, the process was not hard. It took time, but it wasn't difficult.
That's awesome. Yeah. One of our mottos is like, almost everybody gets writer's block. Nobody gets talker's block. So if you get somebody that you can have a conversation with, who's asking the right questions, like, the information will come out. And it's just a matter of having somebody who knows how to shape it and kind of do some of that intellectual labor for you to, like, put it in the right frames and get it in the right order and get the transitions in and out right. And so I'm always delighted to hear that people had a good experience with Scribe and their team throughout. How did you? This is going back a little bit, but how did you decide on Scribe specifically? I know you were introduced, by your kind of friend, but
yeah. So it was funny. He found, like, just because he's written books, like, I kind of relied on his expertise, and I think he found end of 3 different opportunity, like 3 different groups I could work with. So I interviewed all of them, and Scribe was the only one for me that was like, okay, it kind of covered everything. Like, it was all encompassed and inclusive, and I didn't have to, like, do any extra work on my own to find other people, right? And again, I mean, kind of a busy dude, like, practices, and I train and
you're a
teach
very busy dude.
doctors
Let's not. Yeah.
got some kids, and so adding extra work to this is just a roadblock, right? And so to find, Scribe is like, hey, like, we got you, man. We'll make sure we hold your hand through the whole process. I'm like, that's what I need.
You show up to the meetings, we'll take care of the rest. So I want to spend the kind of the last little bit here on, because I think you've got some really unique ideas in how you're using your book. Like, so, it came out as we're recording this 3-4 months ago now. I'd just love to spend some time on, how did you plan your launch? What was that process like? And then get into a few of the other things.
The advantage I had going into launching is I already have, just because of the nature of work, a fairly good base in social media and all that kind of stuff. And so, I was able to get the word out there pretty well. And so when it launched on Amazon, I mean, it hit the bestseller in a like 3 categories within the first week, right? So that was really cool.
What kind
Again,
of, just for people for reference, like how big of a following like what's your biggest platform following?
so on Instagram, I have about 60,000, currently about 60,000 followers, and then through the dental community as well. But which I was surprised how many dentists bought the book too. Honestly, wasn't I didn't think that would happen, but it did. But so that was a great starting point, right? And then for me, what I actually decided to do. So it's hard to go back beyond a year, but I think a year I can do pretty well. All the patients that I've treated within the last year, I'm actually sending them a copy. So I'm signing a copy, thanking them for trusting me with their smile, and I kind of created like this. I came with this idea, like and I'm stealing from Willy Wonka and the golden ticket idea, and I'm giving a voucher to them too. And I'm like, look, as a thank you, I'm giving you this voucher that, gives you $500 of credit within our practice for, mate cleanings and things like that. But also a $500 voucher to share this with a friend, right? A friend or family that maybe is thinking about the same thing. Here's an opportunity for them to come talk to me, right? And so that was a way of kind of almost using this for a marketing piece as well. That's been the idea that I've come up with. But what's also been interesting, I just had this experience last week. I have a patient who I'm seeing tomorrow actually to do a new smile design for her. And she came in as a consult and just kind of wasn't really sure what she would do and if she was going to do it. And my treatment coordinator gave her a copy of my book. And so I saw her last week before, confirming everything for tomorrow. And she's like, yeah, I read your book already. And I'm like, wait, what? You already read my book? She's like, so I'm ready. I get it now. I'm like, cool. So it's been a great tool for people even that are already starting the process with me, just to get a full picture and just feel that confidence going into building a confident smile.
Yeah, I mean, somebody has to, like, that's such a leap of faith to like trust you with a process like that has such incredible upside, but also is risky, and
you can't undo it. Like if you
yeah.
mess it up, it's messed up, right?
And it's expensive and takes time out of your life. And, I'm sure it's a meaningful decision to make, and it's very trust based. So, I always ask people, like, how can you build trust at scale? It's a really difficult thing. I think that's an incredible little story of, like, if you could spend 8 hours talking to her and showing her everything that you've ever done and all the stories and her most similar patients and explaining all of the backstory, of course she could be really enthusiastic and feel totally safe and trusting at the process. And this book is a way to get that done.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, I did it once. Now I can use it thousands of times, right? For people to hear the story and understand in such detail that I could never have enough time, or they could never have enough time with me to really go through that.
Yeah. And it's, it seems niche. I think if you are a person who does not have to think about your smile, then writing a book about this sometimes is like, people are worried about that? Is like, for the people who care about that, it's actually the single most important thing in their life.
They're
right. Seeking answers to this. They're seeking options. They want to know everything about it. And they want to understand how to get relief and a resolution. So I was going to ask, and maybe that was already the best answer. What's, has anything interesting or unexpected happened as a result of this book being out in the world?
Yes, actually. So this was a couple weeks ago. My marketing team told me this. So, and this came because of, I think, a lot of the press with the book. So, again, I'm not really sure what it was pre-book, but I'm pretty confident the book solidified it. So on ChatGPT, when you search cosmetic dentist in the Bay Area, I show up as number 1. And when you do it in the US, the whole country, I'm number 3 in the US of top cosmetic dentists. And having, again, this book creates validation, right? It creates this expertise on who you are and what you do, and it differentiates. And so I think that was something that I wasn't really expecting to have happen.
So you came into this just thinking, like, this would be a good tool for my patients to sort of get to know me better. And the impact it's had is already, like, expanding beyond that. Dude, I'm excited to see these golden tickets roll in. I think this is a great idea.
I'll send you one.
Yeah, I always think, it's a process of concentric circles to like reach your readers, right? Like your next reader is probably 1 degree of separation from a current reader or a current customer or a current patient. And so I think what you've done here is a really clever thing, which is like you already have this pool of people that you know are really interested and really educated and trust you. You're giving them the resources to go deeper or to give this book to somebody that they know. Like, what's the first thing you're going to do if you aren't confident about your smile and you know somebody who recently went from not confident to confident? You're going to call them and you're going to say, what happened? Who did you talk to? What did you do? How can I learn more? And that person's going to say, like, this is Dr. Field. Here's his book. Here is his golden ticket. Like, educate yourself. You know, you're just hanging out with your kids and they're reading all about you and how much of an expert you are and what you can do for them and how their life can get better. And, that's happening dozens or hundreds of times all at the same time. And through this trusted network, I think that's a beautiful thing.
And I hope in the end I can destigmatize those conversations, right? It's like, hey, it's hard to say, man, your teeth are jacked. You should go see someone, but say, hey, like this is a book that I got, like it changed my life. Check it out, right? I mean, that makes it a little bit more friendly.
And I'm sure there's a lot of people seeking solutions to this. Like we said, like it's, for some people, it is the single heaviest burden they carry, maybe the thing holding them back from confidence. And that, to be able to resolve that for somebody is an incredible thing. Have you gotten my experience post book was, oh my God, I've got to write another book. Like that was so fun. I'm addicted. Is that your experience? Or are you like, I nailed this one. This is all I need. I'm going to run with this one for a while.
So yeah, great question. This will probably be the only dental book I'll do. But I do have an idea of a non-dental book, and it's almost like a business related book. And so that's one I'm working on, and I know I'll write another book. I'll probably wait till my youngest is done. I have 11-year-old twins right now, and so I'll wait maybe till they're a little bit older. But yeah, I do want to get another one out for sure.
Given that, it's amazing we've had even half an hour together. Thank you, thank you for making the time. I'm so excited to keep tracking this and see all the ways that you use your book, and I think it's going to have a huge impact on your profile, your career, your business, your practice, and thousands and thousands of readers over many, many years to come.
I sure hope so. I mean, how neat would that be, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're the snowball's rolling. It's got great reviews. You've already got hundreds and hundreds of copies off the shelf, and you've got that kind of word of mouth in the community that you need going. And I think that's, as long as you keep kind of blowing into those sales, it should have a really long shelf life. And I know it's really like helping people. So I think when that's where you start from and you've got evidence that that's already happening, then it's easy to kind of keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it makes you having this, like, this is almost like a cornerstone of like what you're doing in your thought process and how you're approaching things and connecting with people. And so it does make you more intentional, right? It does make you more intentional. It's like, hey, I have this now. Like, how do I use it? Right? How do I use it for the most good? And it's not just a passive thing, but just sitting there.
Yeah, I think that's so much of the ROI on the time and effort and money invested in writing a book comes from, not just having a box in your garage or saying I wrote a book, but like, what do you do every week, every month, every year for the next, 3, 5, 10 years with that book to solve people's problems, get it out of the world, accelerate your platform or your practice or anything like that. So I think you're on a great path, and given the ideas and unexpected surprises, good news you've had so far, I think that that's gonna just keep continuing. So
yeah, it's off to
keep an eye out.
A great start and better than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good place to be. What did you expect? Actually, that's a good. What did you expect, and where are we now?
To sit in my office on a shelf in my office, like maybe in the waiting room, and start collecting dust. Right? It's just like, oh, hey, cool, right? I mean,
you wanted to do it even if that was the outcome.
Totally. Like I had very low expectations. Like this was for me. Like I wrote this for me. Honestly, I'm like, I want to do this just because it's a life goal, right? And so that was out of the gate. I'm like, this is going to be an investment. there's going to be no ROI on it, and I'm okay with that. It's just like, I'm just going to do it for me, and I'm investing this in myself, and it's going to be done, and it's going to be a nice dust collector, but it'll make me happy to look at it. It's definitely been beyond that.
Yeah, that's honestly a great place to start. That's how I started with my book. Is like, even if nobody reads this thing, I will be grateful for the hours I spent doing this work, and I'll be proud of having accomplished this milestone. And if you go into it with that mental attitude, everything after that's gravy, and you're delighted. And I think I think there's a lot more gravy to come. So I appreciate you taking the time, speaking well on of us, and everything that you've sort of lived as an example for other authors to come.
Yeah, and words to anyone out there listening, thinking about doing it, just do it. Just come on, Nike it up, just do it. Get the outline going, and it's not a tremendous amount of time you got to carve out. I mean, it was an hour a week, right? I literally just carved out an hour a week, and I think anyone could do that. If I was able to accomplish that, anyone can do it.
Yeah, you're a very authoritative. If you can carve an hour a week, anybody can. So I appreciate you making the time for us, and it's been an honor to get you up this mountain. And I'm so excited to see what comes.
Thanks for being my Sherpa. Appreciate it.